The story before us is a tragic one. It's an interesting one, but I think it's also very telling. So when Isaac was old, that is Genesis. Are you Genesis 27? Oh, how I hope that I'll be able to finish this sermon, but I will do our best. Is that okay? When Isaac was old and his eyes were so weak that he could no longer see, he called for Esau. It depends on where you come from. Esau, Esau, whatever. I think the guy was from Eastern Province. Esau, Esau, his older son, and said to him, actually just thinking about that, you realize sometimes in the Bible, you can almost place a lot of these characters in the Bible from some place in Kenya. Have you noticed that? Esau, if Paul, where do you think the Apostle Paul came from? I think he came from Western. He used to love sending greetings, Greet so and so, greet so. Natuma salam. Then there's a guy called Nicodemus, Where was he from? Nyanza. Nicodemus, That's not in my script. Let's be serious. So anyway, when Isaac was old and his eyes were so weak that he could no longer see, he called for Esau, his older son, and said to him, "My son, here I am," he answered. Now Isaac said, "I am now an old man and don't know the day of my death. Now then, get your weapons." Now, at this particular point, Isaac was 137 years old. Now, and probably why he felt this, that he felt that probably my time is coming to an end, is because his half-brother Ishmael, you remember Ishmael? The son through Hagar, had actually died at 137. So now, Isaac is 137, and for some reason he probably feels that, maybe even for me, maybe this is the time of my death. So he begins preparing his death. So he says, "Now then, get your weapons, your quiver and bow, and go out to the open country to hunt some wild game for me. Prepare me the kind of tasty food I like, and bring it to me to eat, so that I may give you my blessing before I die." Now Rebekah, his wife, was listening as Isaac spoke to his son Esau. When Esau left for the open country to hunt game and bring it back, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "Look, I overheard your father say to your brother Esau, 'Bring me some game and prepare me some tasty food to eat, so that I may give you my blessing in the presence of the Lord before I die. Now, my son, listen carefully and do what I tell you. Go out to the flock and bring me two choice young goats, so that I can prepare some tasty food for your father, just the way he likes it. Then take it to your father to eat, so that he may give you his blessing before he dies." Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, "But my brother Esau is a hairy man, and I'm a man with smooth skin. What if my father touches me? I would appear to be tricking him, and will bring down a curse on myself rather than a blessing." His mother said to him, notice what the mother said, "My son, let the curse fall on me. Just do what I say. Go and get them for me." Now, I think just a little background there. About 2 chapters before that, you get to see the backdrop of that. See, these two were twins. Jacob and Esau were twins, but Esau came out first, was born first. So obviously he was considered to be the firstborn. But as they were, in fact, even before they were born, remember the whole story here was Isaac had married Rebekah, but they had stayed 20 years without getting any children because Rebekah was barren. Then the Bible says and records that Isaac prayed earnestly for his wife, and the Lord heard his prayer, and she became pregnant. They got married when Isaac was 40. Now he is 60, so they get these two twins. But while the two are still in the womb of Rebekah, she notices that there is some commotion in her womb. And she prays, and God speaks to her, and God tells her that 2 nations are in your womb. And these 2 nations, of course, a few things there. And then he says that the older will serve the younger. Now, as on the point of birth, Isaac comes out first, but Jacob comes out clutching on the heel of Esau. Now, of course, Esau is called Esau. Why? Because he was a hairy, or another name for him was Edom. He was a hairy guy, but Jacob was a smooth guy, as of course he also says himself there. Now they are fully grown, but they all both take very different characteristics. Now, as they begin growing up, their personalities become very clear, because Esau is a man of open country. Esau is a hairy guy. You know, the hairy dude, muscle Mike kind of a dude, and the guy who loves the bow and the arrow. He likes going out there to hunt for game. He may be contemporary. You know, if it was in our time, he would be the kind of fellow who likes riding a motorbike with tattoos all over, hair all over, you know, with something there, with a huge beard, something like that. Tough guy. Now, Jacob, on the other hand, the Bible says that he was a man who loved to dwell in the tent. He was a guy who loved to cook. He was smooth-skinned, no beard on him. And as a result, Esau develops a liking for, Isaac rather, develops a liking for Esau, while Rebekah develops a liking for Jacob. At the very, very beginning, you see the parents playing favoritism. And I know you've heard sermons, about that, but of course there's definitely a big danger when parents begin playing favorites. Now, even before we continue with this story, I think it is important for us to understand that Jacob and Esau are so different, yet they are twins coming from the same womb, same father, same womb, yet they are so different. As we've already observed, Esau is a hairy guy, rough guy, and he's out there in the country. Yet Jacob is the complete opposite. Jacob is a kind of a guy who wants to stay at home with mommy. He's the kind of a guy who wants to stay at home and do all the household chores. He's the kind of a guy who will go out for a manicure and a pedicure. He's a kind of, you're suave kind of a fellow, always hair right, suit kind of a guy. Please stop looking at me like that. In other words, and I think the lesson for us is very clear, that you can, and some of you who are parents, many of you here who are parents, you know, out of your womb can come out two nations. One child is organized to the T. The other one is a prayer item. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Same father, same mother. Jacob is a guy who loves dwelling. In fact, that's what the Bible, he loved dwelling in the tent. He was not an open country guy. He's a kind of a guy who sits at home Googling for recipes. You find him in the kitchen, like he's a kind of a fellow. But it's important for you to know and understand that no two children are alike. And I think the first lesson in the patriarchal blessing that you need to understand is this: never ever expect your children to be similar or to be alike. They will always, sometimes they will be as different as night and day. Accept them the way they are. It is not good, it is not right for you to compare your children. You hear parents sometimes saying, why can't you be behaved like your brother? Why can't you do your homework like your sister? Never do that to your children. You know why? The moment you begin comparing them, you begin sowing seeds of dissension among them. Because what you're saying to your child is that I prefer your sibling, I prefer your brother, I prefer your sister to you. Or there's something wrong with you. Something is amiss with you, but the one who has it right is your brother or your sister. Never play favorites with your children. Love them. Now, obviously, we are human. Sometimes you will want to identify with one child or the other. By the way, sometimes even our own naming systems sometimes get in the way. The way we name our children sometimes is problematic, because like where I come from, when we name our children according to our parents, so you have half of the family being named according to the family or the parents or the husband, and the other half on the other side. Sometimes it sows seeds of discord. Are you hearing what I'm saying? I remember growing up, like sometimes because of where I was, I was named on my dad's side, and whenever sometimes we go to the village, if you go to this other side, you're treated like a foreigner. Are you with me? But when you go to this other side, they celebrate you. And my other siblings, the same thing. And sometimes you don't realize that sometimes we are messing up our children from a very early stage. In other words, when God blesses you, whether it's 1 child, 2 children, 3 children, 10 children, love them equally. Pray for God's grace. I know they may come out of your womb, but some of them need special grace for them to love them. I know. They are yours. Love them. Embrace them. And we shall see that even as we move along in this. Are you still in church? This